Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and somebody who's covering Disney very closely. We've done a number of these videos. We did do a video talking about the real reason behind the Disney coup, where basically Bob Chapek lost the respect of Disney executives and the board, and it was because his strategies weren't working and he wasn't following up to change them. Christine McCarthy did her job as CFO. It's not common that CFOs go and just get the CEO thrown out, but she did go and do her job. She got Bob Chapek thrown out by the board, really by telling the board, either he goes or I go. And the reason why she was going to resign was, although Bob Chapek was probably very well intended, he would not change his strategy. He was overly aggressive with promoting subscriptions for Disney Plus, to the point where as they got more and more subscribers, they lost more and more money. He was also overly aggressive with producing way too much content for Disney Plus. The content they were producing, they must have spent $10 billion this year on Disney Plus, maybe a little bit less. Part of the reason that Chapek was so willing to spend all of that money is because they would only have to expense a small percentage of it. So even though the money is spent, they still consider it a big part of their library. So the losses that they were actually having on producing the content would be hidden for several years. That's okay if you think the strategy is going to work out long term. If Christine McCarthy as CFO was looking at it and saying, you know something, no, I mean, there's an amount we can do that we can stretch this out over a certain number of years. They've always done that. But it got really aggressive with Chapek saying, no, we're going to produce more and more content. We need more and more content. Chapek's the one who said numerous times in interviews, it's all about content, content, content. We need more content. Well, he got the content. They got tremendous losses as a result. And while they got a lot of subscribers for Disney Plus, every time they got more subscribers, they lost more money. Bob Chapek decided, and this was a good idea, but impractical, so not really a good idea. He created something called Disney Media Entertainment Distribution. That consolidated and controlled a lot of the decisions about how content were going to be distributed, whether it's going to be on linear networks or on Disney Plus, or if a movie was going to go and just be put onto Disney Plus, or if it was going to be marketed theatrically. He created a separate division, Bob Chapek did, to do that. The problem with doing this, even though it could potentially save some overhead, save some expenses, is that he was taking authority from all of these different division heads that used to be able to make these decisions. So Pixar would know, okay, well, we're going to project this budget, we're going to work on this project. All of the green lighting decisions, all of the distribution decisions, all of this stuff winds up getting consolidated away. That was a big problem. And as a result, to keep people happy, all of the budgets went absolutely through the roof. Did you know they spent $25 million per episode on She-Hulk? Basically all the Marvel shows for Disney Plus, $25 million an episode. WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, everything. $25 million an episode. That's a lot of money. You know, and the shows cost money. They ain't free. Okay. But The Mandalorian only cost $15 million. What's the differential here? Why do the episodes have to now cost $25 million for everything? Sandman costs $15 million. Big hit for Netflix, produced by Warner Brothers Discovery. The Boys, season 1 was $11.2 million per episode. The Boys season 3, $11 million per episode. Obi-Wan, Lucasfilm through Disney, $25 million per episode. So somehow this magical $25 million number just became the regular number, as a way to basically just placate the production studios to be willing and comfortable enough with losing all the control that Bob Chapek took away from them. That's what Bob Chapek did. That's what caused Bob Chapek to ultimately get fired, because he refused to change strategy. And even if he was to change strategy, would he have known what to do? The layoffs were not all Bob Chapek's idea. The layoffs were something that Christine McCarthy was working on along with Chapek, but the layoffs are going to still happen. They'll probably happen after Christmas. Bob Iger is there. He's supposed to be the CEO. All Bob Iger talks about is gun control and woke stuff and respecting creative people. So who's making the decisions? Who's the person communicating with the board? Who's laying out a strategy for how to fix Disney? It's Christine McCarthy. She's the CEO now. So should she be the CEO in the future? Maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying she's actually the real CEO now, and it's something that people should know. The change in strategy is dramatic. They have to get rid of all of these inflated production budgets. This has to stop. They have to reduce the content they're producing, and they also have to go back to licensing their old content like they used to do, which that alone was another $800 million of profit a year. So that's the basic challenges ahead of them. Christine McCarthy is pretty much aware of this, it seems like, and she's working on it. Let's get into this article. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. We did hit over 4,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for your support. Disney's Christine McCarthy emerges as top CEO contender to succeed Bob Iger. CFO was King Killer, who took down Bob Chapek. Now, let's also discuss this for a second. Is it so strange for a CFO to come and take over as CEO? No, not at all. The number of CFOs being promoted to CEOs hits an all-time high. In the first half of 2022, 8.1% of CFOs at some of the largest companies in the U.S. were promoted to CEOs, according to executive search firm Chris Colder Associates' latest volatility report, based on data from 681 companies in the Fortune 500 and S&P 500. So this is a trend. Is it a good trend? Who knows? But it is a trend. It does happen. It wouldn't be that unusual. With the unexpected return of Bob Iger last month for a new stint as Disney's CEO, the entertainment giant's veteran chief financial officer, Christine McCarthy, has emerged as a leading contender to take over the top job. Now, when they say leading contender, there are several other candidates. She's not the only one. She's not the leading contender. She's a leading contender. Quote, Christine has been a force to be reckoned with, but you'll have to put her on a list of top 5 possibilities after the last few weeks, a Disney insider said of the now prominent CFO. If McCarthy was handed the keys to the Magic Kingdom in the next 23 months, the exec would occupy a historic position as the first female CEO in Disney's soon-to-be more than 100-year existence. Well, that's nice. But of course, they have issues to deal with. So can she do the job or not? CFOs are key managers, but more often than not, low profile, working behind the scenes, emerging during earnings season and the occasional investor conference. Rarely do they take center stage, especially in the heat of battle, leading the troops into a messy ouster of their boss. And rarer do they still become a king killer. That's what happened, however, with McCarthy, the longtime Disney treasurer, who became CFO in 2015. A steady hand in the previous Iger regime, and when Chapek was in charge, McCarthy was influential in helping to successfully engineer a string of key mergers and adept at raising and husbanding cash during the depth of COVID. Yet, on November 20th, the CFO became the public face of the Disney coup. Distraught by the company's dire bottom line and missteps by Bob Chapek over the last 18 months, McCarthy is the executive whose name is now in the history books for going to the board and its chair, Susan Arnold, to orchestrate a revolt in the executive suite that brought Iger back after less than a year of his official retirement. He was chairman at the time when he retired. He wasn't CEO. Going to Arnold in mid-November, McCarthy, one of the highest-ranking women in the entertainment industry, threatened to resign if Chapek was not cut loose immediately. In the 35 years I've been doing this, I never saw a CFO go around as CEO, said one longtime Wall Street analyst, with a tinge of amazement in his voice after McCarthy cut the knees out from under Chapek and his reign of terror. Now Iger, who handpicked Chapek in late 2019 before quickly souring on the former head of Parks and Resorts, has just under 2 years to pick and position a viable successor. In that vein, it's not surprising the CFO's name appears in the top 5 list of talked about candidates for the future CEO job. However, with Iger's successor track record in mind, that list, which some have placed Dana Walden, chair of Disney General Entertainment Content, on 2, needs to be trimmed down to 1 name pronto. They will have 12 months to decide of who they want to try to really go with. She's got a good shot, though, McCarthy. I don't know if she's any good or not, but she did stop Chapek from completely destroying the company with these inflated budgets and this terrible structure of DMED, where the people who were making the content were not responsible for it being successful anymore. Reality is there are not a lot of seasoned executives in or out of the Disney pipeline that have the institutional memory, which is a reference to like when you work at a company for a long time and you kind of understand who's there, how it works, what works for the company, what didn't work that people tried before at the company. That's impossible to translate. They don't have the board relationships and leadership chops to avoid on-the-job training and repeat the Chapek experiment. Fact is, Tom Stagg's stunning exit in 2016 as chief operating officer and streaming kingpin Kevin Meyer's subsequent departure in 2020 thinned out the Disney upper ranks before Chapek was tipped as CEO by Iger. Even with scant talent and creative credentials, that pruning leaves McCarthy in a strong position, one media banker noted recently. To varying degrees, the anointed Staggs and Golden Boy Mayer, and Kevin Mayer was great, had both been considered successors to Iger and both left after being passed over and iced out. It's unlikely, however, that either could move back to the company and the top job unless Disney agreed to buy out Candle Media, a lucrative venture the friends and former colleagues launched with backing from Blackstone. Analysts and fund managers really like Staggs, who was also the CFO for years, and fans of the current chief financial officer calling McCarthy very honest, very capable, and a straight shooter. Quote, she really shined when the pandemic hit. She did exactly what the CFO should do. She lined up enough cash for 1 or 2 years of no revenue. She put together a huge bundle of cash at reasonable interest rates very quickly to protect the company, said one. Disney's last financial results, however, were shocking as the company spent on streaming, with losses in the division ballooning to nearly $1.5 billion for the fiscal fourth quarter ending in September, more than twice the red ink of the year before, and much steeper than expected. Disney's guidance for the next year also looked grim. Analysts wished the company had managed expectations better. In other words, kind of the company put out warnings and kind of let people know, hey, bad things are happening and we may not have the numbers we think in the fourth quarter, which might have avoided a rout of Disney's stock because the stock is down a lot and it keeps going down. On an earnings call with analysts after the numbers, Chapek left the deft McCarthy to do most of the talking. She handled all those questions, said one analyst of the biology major and botanist who worked at banks for 2 decades before joining Disney in 2000. Then she joined as treasurer and then eventually CFO in 2015. Insiders describe McCarthy, who lists aviation pioneer Amelia Earhart as her hero, as the kind of person who really has the best interests of the company at heart, as well as an incredibly smart and a great mentor to women at Disney. Still, with McCarthy's strengths and her recent major muscle flex, time may prevent her from being in the final CEO mix, suggests one Wall Streeter. McCarthy is 67 years old. Bob Iger was originally supposed to retire about 6 years ago when he was 65. So I don't see them hiring someone that age to be CEO for the long term. They just went through how many transitions? Whatever the final verdict on a new CEO to replace the 71-year-old Iger for the second time, McCarthy appears certain to be a key player at a delicate period for Disney and the broader media landscape. Investors are waiting for Iger's direction on direct-to-consumer investment for streaming, how it plans to drive subscribers, but not at any price. This is a market right now that's focused on the cost of that growth, hoping Bob Iger gets in there and reviews what his plans are and how spending will drive future profitability. I'm telling you, McCarthy has these plans already, and he's likely to just do whatever she says because he has not been intimately involved in this, and she's been sweating it out like night after night after night with all these numbers and arguing them out and probably preparing arguments that she was having with Chapek and other people. She knows the numbers. She's probably got a plan. We'll see. I assume Iger is going to follow her. Iger has already said he will restructure DMED, or Disney Media and Entertainment Distribution, an unpopular division Chapek created that kneecap creative decision makers at the company. McCarthy with Walt, and the problem with that, you can kneecap creative people and say, hey, who cares? There's a lot of creative people. That's fine. But they're the ones who are actually making the stuff. The stuff has to be great, or ultimately it's not going to make money. So people have to actually want to do the work. So it's got to be good. People have to feel like they're in control. And it'd be one thing if the company just started up. They didn't just start up. Chapek came up with this structure, and it was Chapek's fault, and it was his idea. And it didn't work because it took responsibility away from people and authority away from people that they were used to having. That's a very difficult transition to do no matter what the business is in this situation. So now it's up to McCarthy and Iger to work on a design for a new structure that puts more decision-making back into the hands of our creative teams and to rationalize costs, which is to cut costs. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Do you think it's Christine McCarthy who's really running things right now? Or do you think it's Bob Iger? Because again, all I've seen Bob Iger really do or talk about is gun control, woke stuff. We're going to respect people. Nothing about plans. I was expecting a lot more from Bob Iger, and now you can kind of really realize she's the one that seems to be in control of things. But let me know what you think of this in the comments below. If you agree, you disagree, you have other information, I'd love to hear it. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.